Hi, this is Nate Stottlemyer with NPS Music, and today we're looking at Reason 9 and the Master Section Insert Effects chain. So today we're going to set up a multi-band compressor in the Master Section to master our recording here. Now I have my session open, all my tracks have been edited, everything is mixed, and I'm ready to master. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and tuck away the mixer and tuck away the sequencer so I can see the rack clearly. And I'm going to show the insert effects and turn off the bypass. And so here we see all the default devices. Okay, there's an M-class equalizer, M-class stereo imager, M-class compressor, and M-class maximizer in the default insert effects. So we want to set up a multi-band compressor. Now unfortunately Reason does not have a rack extension that allows us to do this, so we have to create one. Now there are multi-band compressors in Propellerhead's online shop. All of them cost money, and we want to be able to do this today for free. So we are going to look at the AirRaid Audio Elements Splitter. Now this isn't a default device in Reason. This is something that you do have to download from Propellerhead's shop. However, it's free. So if you don't already have it, you should consider having it in your rack extension library. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert this right above the compressor. Okay, and you can see just by looking at it that it's a splitter that divides our signal into three bands: a low band, a mid band, and a high band. In between the high and mid band, we have a crossover. Between the mid and low bands, we have a crossover. Okay, and depending on the song that you're mastering will depend on where you set your crossover frequencies. Okay, now since we're using the splitter to set up a multi-band compressor, we're going to need two more compressors. So let's go back to our effects. Let's find the M-class compressor and let's bring in two more compressors. Great. Now, let's look at our connections. It's not likely that our connections were set up the way that we want them, and to look at the back side of the rack, I just press Tab. Okay, and we can see that the first compressor was connected to the outputs of the mid bands by default when I inserted the element splitter. I actually am going to move those to the high bands since that's my first compressor. And the other two compressors connected to the first compressor in series, and I don't want that, so what I'm going to do is disconnect each device. And what I'm going to do is connect the outputs of the splitter, the mid-band to the second compressor. And you can see that it automatically connects the right channel when I connect the left channel also. And then the output of the low band to the third compressor. Okay? And to keep things organized, I'm going to rename those compressors so they correspond with the bandwidths that I connected them to. Now, you're thinking to complete this probably, I need to connect the outputs back to the splitter so that they merge and I can connect the output of the splitter to the next device. Well, unfortunately, Element Splitter doesn't work that way, so we need to use another device to merge our signals again. To do that, we'll use a default device in the Reason extension or rack extension library. Under Utilities, we'll find, there it is, the Spider Audio Merger and Splitter. So let's click on that, drag it into our rack. Okay, and let's look at the connections. Now it didn't automatically connect, so what I'm going to do is go from the output of each compressor into the inputs of the merger. And I'm just dragging the left connection and it automatically connects the right also. So now our three compressors are connected to the Spider Audio merger. And let's take the signal out of the merger to the input of the next device, which is the M-class maximizer. Great. So our signal chain's set up, and let's check it and make sure that it works. All right, so now I have a signal everywhere. Everything's going through fine. So the element splitter has some nice features. Okay, we can, on each bandwidth on the device, mute that particular section. So if I want to mute the low bands, I can mute them and just listen to the mids and highs, or I could mute the mids or mute the highs. I can also solo each section, so I'm just listening to that specific one. Okay, in each section, I can control the volume, or pan left and right that particular section, or I can control the mono versus stereo signal here. So if it's right in the middle, it's unaffected. And so there you have it. That's our 3-band compressor that we have set up. It's actually very similar to a Drummer 1973. If you're not familiar with that device, I'll show you really quick. So here's a hardware Drummer 1973. This is a 2U rack mountable 3-band stereo compressor, and you can see it set up just like the one that we just set up in Reason. It has the low band, the mid band, and high band, crossover between the high and mid bands, crossover between the mid and low bands. Okay, on a Drummer 1973, you can also mute each section, so you can listen to the different sections that you want to. It doesn't have a solo feature, but you can mute 2 sections and, in turn solo another one, so you can listen to it. All right, and yeah, so our compressor that we just set up in the master insert chain in Reason functions just like that now. So there you have it. If you have any questions or if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me online at nps-music.com. And there you have it. Thank you.